everybody!
Hi!
We're going to turn Pumpkaboo into a clay lantern. Before we get started though, I just want to share how excited I am. I got permission to be able to read from my dad's books. His name is Roger Romero, and he has several books that he has written. The one that we are going to be reading today is called The Forbidden Valley. It is actually part of the Fallen Orcs story. This is the first part of it, or the first adventures of the Fallen Orcs story, which is all part of the Chronicles of the Pink Pearl. So I'm super excited to be able to share that with you. Let's go ahead and get started.
The Forbidden Valley by Roger Romero. Once upon a time, not many years ago, not too far from where you live, there lived a young girl. Her name was Emily, and she was very pretty for an orc. Well, she was very pretty for a human, for that matter. At that time, orcs were terribly misunderstood. Their skin wasn't like yours or mine. It was a soft gray color with small bumps in random places, and shortly after sunset, if they'd been in the sun much, their skin would glow lightly. You might know a few orcs from school, but probably didn't like them much. Maybe they made fun of your glasses or laughed at you when you did something awkward. Orcs aren't the same today as they were then. A few years back, orcs were very pleasant folks who would help anyone they came in contact with. Emily once gave her coat to a stranger who was cold and told her dad she had lost it. But I digress from the story. So let's start again at the best place to start. Once upon a time. A long, long time ago, orcs and humans lived together, prospering in a great city deep in the Southern Valley woods, but that was then. In a decomposing garden in the center of a great city stood a pole. The pole had burn marks reaching up several feet from the ground, with chains hanging limp from the top, moving slowly in the wind. The soft breeze swayed the chains, making a small clink, clink, clink that echoed off the nearby walls. Every now and then a small thud was heard in the distance, a large footfall or an axe on a tree. It was hard to tell. The surreal scene, full of decaying foliage and crumbling stones, had the smell of rot in the air. Dark rust-colored stains covered the surrounding areas. Buildings that once stood majestic now crumbled in disrepair. A cartwheel lay on its side. The cart crumbled with time. Small patches of green cut through the gray rubble, coloring the otherwise lifeless scene. The light from the sun shot long shadows across the ground. Was it sunrise or sunset? Emily couldn't tell. The thud in the distance seemed to grow closer, causing shivers to run down her spine. Where was it coming from? "Who's there?" she heard herself say. Something moved just out of her sight. The scene began to spin slowly. No movement anywhere, but everything was moving. The sound was closer. Something caught her eye. Was it a face? Spinning faster, the scene became a blur. Then a giant hand reached out. She sat up and looked around her room, breathing heavily. Oh, it was only a dream, she thought. She could hear pots and pans knocking together and something frying in the kitchen. Crawling out of bed, she pulled her long brown hair over her shoulder, which hung in a single braid. Her papa poked his head in the open door. Like all orcs, he had a long face with black eyes, black hair, and a big mouth, which gave an almost cartoon-like smile in the dim light. "Breakfast," he said cheerfully, then disappeared back into the kitchen. She looked at herself in the mirror and smiled. Except for her pale skin, she didn't look much like her papa. Her face was not as pale as his, and her eyes were a light shade of brown. Quickly getting dressed and checking herself in the mirror, she made her way into the kitchen. Papa smiled as he set the flat cakes on the table. His smile faded as he saw the worried look on her face. "Another dream?" he asked. She nodded. "Same as the others." Although orcs seldom dreamed, at times some were known to, but dreams were never good. Many of the town elders would want to purge the house if they knew she was dreaming. Once an older woman in the village had a dream. When the elders purged her home, they burned her bed. Was it the dead city again? He asked. She half smiled. I think so, but this time I saw something, or someone. Better to forget it, he continued, a worried look on his face. I'm on watch today, so I made arrangements for Sarah and Brett to go with you to the market. She rubbed her eyes. Shorter than most orcs, she didn't like to walk far and wasn't looking forward to the walk, but at least it would be bearable with Sarah and Brett. Sarah was her best friend. Being a year older than Emily, she was a little larger than a normal half-orc, with light brown skin and eyes to match. Brett, a human that another orc family had taken in, was her age with blonde hair and blue eyes. He really stood out in a crowd. She quickly devoured her breakfast as Papa went out into the courtyard. She was just finishing when she saw her two friends wandering up the path to their small house and barn. The cart, a push-me-pull-me cart, was already full of large tomatoes. Papa was standing next to the cart with a hand on his hip. He was already giving his lecture to Sarah and Brett. Their small donkey had gone lame, so they would have to push the cart to market. It would make for a long day. Papa grew the sweetest and largest tomatoes around, and they would usually sell the entire cartload in a day at the market, making the return trip easy with the empty cart. Emily headed out to the courtyard. She caught the last of the speech about not eating all the tomatoes before getting them to market. Brett had a huge smile on his face, but that was normal. She couldn't tell if he was being chastised for eating too many the last time or if he was being told he could eat the whole cart. She slipped in between her friends. Papa smiled at her, then looked at Brett with the sternest look, trying not to smile. Brett cowered a little, but the smile never left his face. Papa continued, Stay on the trail. Go straight to the market. Then he smiled again. He gave Emily a quick kiss on the forehead and headed off to his post. You okay? Sarah asked Emily with a concerned look. Emily tried to return a smile that came out as a funny grin. Sure, great. You had another dream, Sarah said factually. The same one as always, Emily replied, only this one seemed more real. I had a dream last night too, Brett cut in. Oh? The girl said with interest. Yeah, there was this giant flat cake that kept trying to put me on a plate and smother me with syrup. When I woke up, I was sweating so bad, I thought I had syrup all over me. They laughed and Brett tried to be serious and gave a small pouty face. But when you take a serious look and put it on a big teddy bear, you get a very angry-looking toy. Brett couldn't help the smile hinting at the corners of his mouth, then joined in laughing at himself as he grabbed a tomato and took a large bite out of it. The sun was rising in the east, and the long shadows of the morning were melting away, like mist in the wood fleeing the light of a new day. We can grab a few tomatoes for lunch, Emily said. Sarah shook her head. Brett, you go on to the market. Emily and I can catch up later. Brett laughed in a slightly fearful way and looked at the dirt path. Your pa would kill me if I came back alone. Emily rolled her eyes. You could die if you go with us, she said matter-of-factly. Brett stared at her, fear in his eyes, as both Emily and Sarah began to laugh. We can hide the cart here, Sarah laughed. We won't go far. Let's just see where the road goes. Pulling the cart into a small ditch next to the road, Sarah and Emily covered it with large fern leaves, while Brett filled a small bag with tomatoes. Sarah surveyed the hidden cart from the road. After being satisfied they had hidden it well, she said, We aren't going to be gone for that long. Brett grabbed another 4 or 5 tomatoes. He just smiled as he stuffed them in the bag. You never know, I might get hungry.
Thanks for listening, guys. Again, that was the Forbidden Valley first chapter, first part, written by Roger Romero. It is available on Amazon Prime. What do you think? This is our Pumpkaboo lantern. I couldn't find a candle, so we're trying our best with it. If you liked this, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch y'all later. Bye!